the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Of what a Grand Prix it was this weekend. Laura, did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did very much enjoy this week. Yes,
Fantastic.
you?
Yeah, no, it was a really exciting race to watch. It was funny enough. I was actually out. I was out. I wasn't actually watching it live, but I was dipping in and out. But when I saw the red flag light on, I had to sit and watch it, and it was so worth it. It was a fantastic race. And we'll quickly dissect it now. Laura, I'll jump to you first. Sort of, what's your race review going to be like for this race?
Sorry, what did you say?
So I said, give your race review of the Baku Grand Prix.
Well, we came from the race before, which was pretty boring. Monaco, there was nothing there. So in Baku, obviously, we had quite a lot of excitement going on. We had a few bad crashes, which shouldn't have happened in my eyes. And we had a few retirements as well. So overall, there was a lot going on in the race. I think we could tell that it was going to be like that from qualifying and practice as well, because qualifying and practice was pretty eventful in itself. I do remember sitting there going, wow, we're only halfway through this race. And it gone on so long and so much had happened, even at the first half before everything else happened. We just sat there and went, wow, okay, there's a lot going on in this race. And you had to sort of sit and watch it back to go through it properly.
No, it was fantastic. Just sort of talk through it bit by bit. Obviously, Leclerc on pole again, which was brilliant. It only really lasted 8 laps of him actually being in the podium spaces, but it's nice to see Ferrari up there. So it's Leclerc on pole. Go on, carry on.
Yeah, he was great, and it was so nice to see him there, and he was excited about it. And unfortunately, his car just didn't seem to have the pace in the race. They were just flying past him.
They were. I think obviously Lewis got past, Max got past, Checo got past. And then obviously the Red Bull sort of got the little jump in the pit stops, which is fantastic. Then we had the incident with Stroll, which didn't really reshuffle the group, but it sort of brought everyone back together, except Mazepin. I think he was still a minute behind after that yellow flag. I don't understand that. Race went on. It became very apparent with about 10 laps left, but Max was going to win. Checo was going to finish second, and Hamilton was going to finish third. And although it was exciting to see Checo on the podium, it was like, oh, Max and Hamilton. And then my word, the last sort of 5-6 laps, obviously Max crashing out, which from a fan perspective made the race very exciting. From a Max Verstappen Red Bull perspective, it was like we've just thrown away 26 points here, obviously the fastest lap as well. Red flag, and then I don't know about yourself, but when that red flag restart, I looked at Hamilton's tyres. I was like, his tyres are on fire, or his brakes are on fire, but I didn't expect that to happen.
No, I didn't expect that to happen either. And obviously, I don't think anyone did. And he would have had him. He was past him. And luckily, he managed to. Well, he came off into the slip road, and because he was past, Checo managed to stay behind. Talking about Checo, do you think he would have been in pole if his pit stop hadn't gone wrong?
I don't know. I think it would have been close. I think that pit stop, it affected him. And he came out a bit behind. But I don't know. I'm glad he didn't, because I feel like if he'd gone out ahead of Max, I think Max would have gone all guns blazing to take him, and it could have been a repeat of 2018, because Max wouldn't want to.
Well, I do wonder if that was orchestrated in a way to make sure that he didn't go in front of Max. But
Red Bull know that they will probably need Max to win, because I know they want to win the constructors, but if Max becomes drivers or champion, that will be more successful for them, I think. But I don't know. And obviously Hamilton sort of drifting away. It was weird, really, because I was looking at this when it was about to restart. I was like, right, all you've got to do here is finish in the top 5, and you're taking the leaderboard championship. If you get top 3, Hamilton, that's a really good result. But it was like he had to win, and obviously that need to win, which is an F1 driver instinct, but that need to win threw away every single point he could have earned, and he's now still 6 points behind, I believe. But it was very.
He said he wasn't going to race. He said he wasn't going to race on the last 2 laps. He wasn't going to risk it.
Well, he did.
But, he did. Yeah. But then Checo had a transmission problem, as far as I'm aware, on the start line. That's why Hamilton got in front of him, because they had to retire the car immediately after the race.
I was going to say, if that red flag never came out, I don't know if Checo would have finished. And if Checo hadn't finished and Hamilton had still got off, imagine a Sebastian Vettel victory.
Yeah, that would have been
amazing. But no, so about the red flag restart, Hamilton's got off, and we've got Checo, we've got Vettel, we've got Gasly. The battle between Leclerc and Gasly was phenomenal. That could have gone on for another 5 laps easily. Tsunoda finishing 7th, but in my opinion, he probably should have finished 5th. He lost places to Norris and Alonso, but then Norris and Alonso pulled off really good overtakes. But there was so much to dissect in those 3 laps, let alone the race. It was fantastic to watch as a fan. I'm sure you'd agree.
Definitely, yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so we'll get on to a bit of discussion into more detail at race then. So we'll start off with, I know you mentioned it prior to the pod, the Pirelli tyres, obviously 2 big crashes caused potentially by the Pirelli tyres. What are your sort of thoughts on that, and obviously the safety of the tyre choice for the weekend?
Well, they always come out and it's always, well, it looks like it was damage, and that's what they always say. And if it was, then great. But what concerns me is that they come out and say it's likely to be damage to the tyre from debris. But if they have an inkling that it's not, then they are putting the driver's safety at risk, and I don't think that's okay. They did see that Lewis had a cut as well, but I haven't seen anything conclusive about what actually happened to the tyres. But we had it last year with the delaminations in one race, and it wasn't the stress tyre again. Yeah.
Silverstone, wasn't it? The first Silverstone race, we had Hamilton, we had Bottas, and we had Sainz. Obviously, Hamilton still won, and I think that was blamed a lot down to the heat. But this time, it was almost like, I don't want to say they chose 2 soft compounds, but they definitely made some form of error. One crash, not fair enough, but 1 crash you can sort of get away. But 2 crashes, especially at the speeds they were going on that main straight, that could have been dangerous.
They can blame it on things like the heat, but at the end of the day, Pirelli's job is to make a tyre that is safe for Formula One racing, and I don't think they have done that properly. Yes, it gets us through the majority of the time, but look at it at the end of the day, most of the racing is now about strategy. So they need to take that away. So I think for the fans, we would like to see the drivers racing and not winning on strategy. So I would like to see potentially maybe the talks of another tyre manufacturer coming back in, because I'm a little bit fed up with Pirelli, and I think a lot of the drivers are, especially Hamilton had his say on it last year as well. He hates the tyres. He hated them last year. So
I do like, just on, I know you mentioned briefly you want to see racing and not the strategy. I'm very excited for these sprint races that are meant to be happening.
yes.
Free adventures, I think that'll be very interesting to see. But obviously, sort of jumping on from Pirelli, obviously we had Sebastian Vettel finishing second for Aston Martin. As I said, obviously Checo's car went straight after the flag, so if there was another lap, he could have won. Is now, after 2 solid performances in Aston Martin, are they becoming how Racing Point were last year, whereby actually they might have had a slow start the first few, but now they're going to be a regular podium contender? Do you think that's potential for Aston Martin?
I hope so. Maybe not for Aston Martin, but for Vettel. I really, really want to see him back up there again, and I want to see his passion. And it was nice to see him back on that podium. I got to admit, I do feel sorry for obviously Stroll when he crashed out, but I'd like to see sort of Stroll up there battling him a little bit more as well. So fingers crossed we see them up there. That would be very, very good.
Yeah, it was nice. It was really nice as a fan to see, especially when I overtook the clerk after that safety car restart, to go, actually, I've just overtook a Ferrari that didn't want me last year, and that was fantastic as well.
Yes, that would have felt good for him.
It would have. Well, looking at even further, well, not for the group this weekend, but in the championship, obviously Mercedes. Now, it was an interesting topic, and I've known a few people have sort of spoken about this on the social medias, and I know we mentioned prior to starting, this Mercedes car, where actually is it? Because obviously you've got Hamilton in it, and Hamilton's always going to be fast. But is the Mercedes car the fastest car on the grid anymore? Because Bottas, he's not a bad driver. I know he's had a bad few races, but he's not a bad driver. But he can't get that car anywhere near the points at the moment. And is this Mercedes car not the fastest car on the grid anymore, do you think?
I do think it's still the fastest car on the grid, but it depends what grid you're on. I don't think they're very fast in corners, and I think that is due to the long wheelbase on it. Obviously Red Bull are fantastic around the corners, and so for section 2 in the race, Mercedes were losing to Red Bull, but on the long straights, Mercedes were going a lot faster, and they were able to keep up a little bit more. So I think they do have the fastest car, but the track definitely makes a difference.
Is it street circuits?
Yes.
That was Red Bull.
I think we're going to have another one, aren't we, in Miami? So.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. But looking at future race, obviously, it's Paul Ricard next in France. Now it's not my favourite track, but it's a lot of straights. Should we expect to see Mercedes dominating again in that race, do you think?
Yeah, I'd expect to see Mercedes back up. That's if I've not had a migraine from watching, because the flashing the lines on the floor and the different track layouts. Trying to ignore those will be quite fun, but I do think Mercedes will be back up again with the straights. They're constantly working on the car, and look at Hamilton. Look where he managed to put himself, even on a track where they weren't best. So Yeah.
It is. And then sticking with Mercedes, obviously, it's becoming more and more prominent every week, and it's a topic that's almost overly discussed, but yet not discussed enough because there's so much to say about it. Let's just go off the assumption that Hamilton's in the car next year. I don't know whether he will be. If he is, what do you do about that second seat? You've got Bottas, you've got Russell, you've got Ocon, you've got potentially. I've heard some people saying, what about Gasly? Because obviously there's a lot of talk about him and AlphaTauri at the moment with Yuri Vips and Liam Lawson coming through. What's going to happen to that Mercedes seat next year, especially with the new era as well?
Well, at the end of the day, I think if Bottas was up supporting his teammate, then I think then he potentially could have had another year contract. However, throughout this season so far, he has shown he is unable to support his teammate and he is not doing very, very well in the races. So therefore, I think they need to think about replacing him. And you know who I want in that seat. I do want to see Russell in that seat, and I think a lot of other people do as well. Unfortunately, that means bypassing Ocon. Ocon's waited for that seat, but I don't think with his driving, if you compared it to Russell when he was in a faster car, but then that's also a risk because he is in a slower car. We just don't know what's going to happen when he gets in that permanently a long time.
He's only been at the front of the grid once, but he did have a good performance. If you were Toto Wolff and you knew Lewis Hamilton and Bottas were both gone at the end of the year, and you could pick any two drivers on the grid, which two would you put in your Mercedes? Let's just say Max is stuck with Red Bull because otherwise we both say so. Max is staying with Red Bull. You get to choose two drivers. Are you picking?
So that would be a difficult one. So I'd want Russell in the seat.
Yeah.
And then it would be a toss-up between Gasly or Vettel.
Yeah. I can't. It's difficult to disagree. I would want Lando Norris in the seat. I don't think he'll leave McLaren, but I'd want Lando Norris, and then I'd pair him up potentially with Gasly or Russell, depending on how I was feeling on the day. I think the problem with Russell is he'll probably end up at Mercedes here and he'll probably win a world championship, but he's never driven a car of that caliber. And not only that, he's never been in Q3 and he's never really had a good Sunday. Apart from, saying that, the one time he was in Mercedes, I know it wasn't his fault, but he still finished 8th. He's never really had a good Sunday, but I think he's a good driver. So I'd want Lando and Gasly, I think. But then again, I suppose if I could pick anyone, I'd probably pick Lando and Charles Leclerc, but I don't think that will happen. That will never happen.
But then if we're saying this, who's to say the Mercedes are going to be the best car next year? Because the regulation changes are going to be immense. However, I think they're going to bring the cars apart because we're so close again now. And every time there's a regulation change, they go, we'll change it to bring them together. And what happens is they move apart and then they start doing a regulation change. And at that point, they start coming back together. It is a bit like a cycle.
It is. I would, to be fair, if I had to predict next year now, I think McLaren will do well next year. And I think Ferrari will probably do a good year. But you can't rule out Mercedes and Red Bull anyway. And we don't even know who's going to be on the grid. Or for who. Yeah. All I know is I'm very interested to see what happens with Nikita Mazepin and the Russian army. Because it's come out of nowhere all of a sudden, hasn't it? We've been doing it every single week, speaking about how he's a bad driver. I mean, he's been all right, to be fair. He's been terrible, but he hasn't been that bad yet. He hasn't caused any major accidents, and he's only got 1 point on his license. But is he? I think you mentioned it. Is he being called into Russian army because he's getting bored of being at the back, or is this a genuine thing?
Well, that's what I did wonder. Is he getting bored of it's no fun anymore because he wanted to come in, he can't compete because he's just not good enough, no. And all of a sudden he has to go to the Russian army. This being said, I watched a video earlier of all the drivers from A to Z. They had to answer what team name was A to Z. Yeah, he did better than Yuki. Much.
Don't know anything about it. I'd love to have a go at that. To be fair, we'll do that on the next pod. I'd love to have a go at it, but I'm looking at it thinking, surely, I reckon I could get at least more than most. They weren't very good. I think the only one was it. One of them did really well, but the rest of them were shocking.
Vettel won, but then obviously Hamilton said McLaren rather than Mercedes, and he went, I'm going to get in trouble for that.
Yeah, you got Hamilton saying McLaren. You got Vettel forgetting he ever drove for Red Bull.
Yeah.
Even with the F, even there were certain people that weren't saying Ferrari, they were still getting it right. And then there were some people that couldn't think of one for B, even though you've got Benetton and I can only think of Benetton now. I've said it.
Yeah,
Or
it was a list of them. I'm going to be going back through
race.
and practicing it.
But I like Daniel Ricciardo's answer to one of them. D, dragon racing or something, he said.
Yeah,
I was like,
he was making them up as he went along.
Good guess. But no, it was very fun video to that. I like a lot of the content they're putting out at the moment, especially the grid stuff. But no, so with the grid, obviously, you know, we've started mentioning the top now cards a lot recently, and we've had 5 cards this week. We had 3 that I think we all expected, and we've had 2 that we did. We've had 1 that we really didn't expect. We'll work our way down. Obviously, the Sergio Perez one, I expected it. I know you did too. Do you like the card, or is it take it or leave it with yourself?
I think it's a poor quality card, to be honest. I think the photo is pretty dreadful. Actually, across the board this week, I think they're pretty basic photos, and we to put an extra set of 5 out again this week after last race, I think they needed something really special, and I don't think they've delivered on that at all.
I mean, I'm just getting the photos off my phone so I could just recall.
I might have just done it as well.
I like the one thing I do. I'm not going to show it just for copyright purposes. One thing I do like about the Checo one is that it's holding the Mexican flag, but unfortunately they've done it so it looks like it's holding the Italian flag. So that's no one's fault. It just looks like it's holding the Italian flag. Well, I also like the fact they've done the variations. And speaking of variations, I'd love to get a green variation of the Vettel card because I do like the Vettel card. I think it looks very nice. Which is
yeah, so I like the lime and the racing green they've done for that. I think that's really good. However, I think the photo on the card again is just, it's a bit, they could have had it something so much better. I like Gasly. I like his card. It just looks he looks so proud in that photo.
He looks happy. And again, Gasly and Vettel are both ones everyone expected. The one I don't think anyone expected was Yuki Tsunoda. I don't know why on earth I know why he's got a card because it says highest finish in debut F1 season. That's a bit of a crap reason for him to have a card, isn't it? It's like it could have been. There were so many more options. What are your thoughts on the Yuki card?
Well, there's people saying this about the Checo card because not too long ago he had the highest in his F1 season, and then now he's got a podium or the winner. So doing this like the highest finish so far, well, they could get one step higher every week. So are we going to have a card for them every time? I think it's a bit ridiculous, to be honest. And I'm not sure at the moment if there's too many Yuki Tsunoda card collectors. I imagine there's a few, but it's not what we were looking for.
Yuki Tsunoda fans. I liked him before he came in, but I don't like how he speaks to his engineer, and I don't really like his attitude. He seems very entitled, and I think a lot of people being put off because he came in. Everyone was like, obviously, you've got Mick Schumacher, who everyone knew. You've got Nikita Mazepin, who everyone didn't like, and you've got Yuki Tsunoda, and it's like, oh, he's a bit of an unknown. You know, he did quite well last year. I ain't thought much of him. I think being in the same car as Gasly probably doesn't help because Gasly is a fantastic driver. But
then he's a rookie driver, so he needs to know his place and he needs to support his teammate, and that's what he needs to learn. And he needs to learn a bit of respect, to be honest, because the way he shouts at his team is dreadful.
And the thing I do like about the card is it's a car card because we haven't actually had a photo of the AlphaTauri card, and it is quite a nice car. So that was nice, but I feel like they could have saved that for something else. But no, if you were in charge of the top sort of the F1 section and you were choosing a 4th card, would you have chosen Tsunoda or would you have chosen someone else?
I reckon I would have put a Leclerc on rather than a Tsunoda, and I know a lot of people have been asking for that as well. So why are tops refusing to give us a Leclerc card?
I think we still haven't got one. I think it's because last week they couldn't give him one because he didn't actually start the race, and this week he finished 4th, but it's like, well, yeah, but it's about the pole. I know Lance Stroll had one last year in Turkey, and I don't even know if he finished in the points, but he still got one. But maybe there's an agenda against Charles Leclerc, but we don't know about.
Maybe they're printing cards because they're struggling to get them out to people, so they're printing cards that no one wants to buy, so then they don't have to print as many.
I mean, I always get a bundle, but I suppose if you're just looking at cards you want, no one's buying a Yuki Tsunoda card this week. I think it'll be quite a low print run. But then the other one, which I am quite excited about, is the Yuri Vips one. I know, neither of us are massive F2 fans, but we've got a little bit of knowledge. But it was a big weekend for F2, their 100th race, and he won twice this weekend, and he's a bit of an unknown. As I said to you, I'm expecting him to end up in an AlphaTauri next year, or if not the year after. But it's nice to have an F2 card again, like obviously the Mick Schumacher one we had last year.
It's nice because obviously for the future, these are our future world champions potentially that are coming through. So you can collect their cards from the F2 stage all the way through to Formula One, which would be really, really good for the collectors who want to stand by them. I don't know too many of them. Maybe I should, but I'm looking at the world champions. The next one's on the F1 grid still. So maybe I need to focus on the F2 a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't watch too much. I think it's one of them where you get the F1 fans that are massively into F2, F3, and all the feeder series. I mean, I like stuff. I love F1. I watch F1. I like to keep a little bit of updates on F2. Like I know Guanyu Zhou's leading the championship, but with regards to the day-to-day runnings of it, I'm not.
I'd rather watch MotoGP.
I just watch all the F1 reruns from like 2012. But look, it's fantastic. Sort of go dissecting the race and sort of speaking about some key talking points from the Baku Grand Prix. Obviously, we've mentioned Paul Ricard next time out. I think this will be a Hamilton win. Don't know whether you feel the same.
Yeah, I would say that, especially because obviously the track, the longer straights, and I think that's how Mercedes have set up to run the car. We'll see if next week Red Bull have that flexi wing still on, because they didn't have time to change it this week, but the FIA said it would be punished and backdated. So let's see if they've got it in the coming race.
If it does get backdated, that means Vettel will get the win, and hopefully that'll be a lovely moment. That'll be a bit bittersweet, but. No, well, look, fantastic to have you on again. Really enjoyed discussing it with you. Obviously, we've got a week off now, and then I believe we've got 3 weeks back to back. So I'm very excited to have the French and then the Austrian and Styrian Grand Prix. I think I always love Austria. It's my favourite track. I don't know why. It's just my favourite track.
When's Austria?
I believe we've got the French Grand Prix next Sunday, and then it's Austria the week after, and then Austria the week after again, because obviously it replaced the Turkish Grand Prix, I believe.
So it's on for my birthday weekend. So 27th of June is my birthday, and I'm going to be watching the F1.
Very excited. Well, have a lovely evening, Laura. Massive thank you for coming on. We'll speak soon.
Nice to speak to you too.
Bye.